Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we are finally starting the Percy Jackson series, which you guys overwhelmingly voted for in last week's poll. So this week's book review will be on Percy Jackson and the Olympians Book 1, The Lightning Thief. So if you guys have really been enjoying these book reviews, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, also hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I drop my next video. So down in the comments, if you guys have any books you want me to do reviews on in the future, you can leave those down in the comments as well. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's hit the intro. As always for this book review format, it's going to be summary of the story, pros, cons, and then my final thought and review. So our main story follows Percy Jackson, who is thrust into a completely new world when he figures out that he is the son of one of the Olympian gods from Greek mythology. After Percy is told that he is a son of one of the Greek gods, he is taken to Camp Half-Blood, a place where they train demigods to fight monsters. While at Camp Half-Blood, Percy gets a prophecy that tells him that he has to retrieve Zeus's Master Bolt to prevent a war between the Olympian gods. So, Percy and his two new friends, Grover and Annabeth, need to go on this crazy dangerous quest to retrieve Zeus's Master Bolt to, like I said, prevent war between Zeus and Poseidon. But this quest is not really like what it seems, because there is a darker and more malevolent force manipulating everything behind the shadows. As always, our really big first pro is how well Rick Riordan continues to use the mythology within the story. Like I said when I did my Kane Chronicles reviews, I love how well Rick Riordan is able to use the mythology within the world of his stories and how well it integrates within the story itself. Because like I said with my Kane Chronicles video, he's able to make his mythology work without sacrificing so much of the story. Particularly in this book, he integrates the mythology so well. What he does several times is have Percy, Grover, and Annabeth do like small side plots, but the mythology itself makes sense. Like they'll fight a monster, and it makes sense where that monster is if you know its mythology, which I super appreciate. It's not like it just comes out of nowhere. It makes where they find the monster makes sense if you know that monster's mythology and story behind it. So the other thing that continues on that I really love is that Rick Riordan does not sacrifice character development for the sake of the mythology. No, he allows the characters to develop and uses the mythology as a secondary thing. The Greek mythology never becomes the central focus. No, the central focus is always Percy and his development with the others. Whereas the mythology just sort of stands in the background and just fleshes out the world, but the world is still focused on Percy and the others. So the other thing that really does make this story work so well is the main three characters that we follow throughout the whole thing. Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. And I'm going to go through each of them really fast and tell you why I love each of those characters. So starting with Percy, I personally love Percy so much. I think Rick Riordan did a standout job doing his characterization. I think he works so well as a protagonist on several levels. First being, he's super just grounded, ground to earth. He's not stock protagonist character. He's got his own personality. He's got his own just personality, and what Rick Riordan does with him is absolutely just brilliant. And the second reason everyone really relates to him is just his struggles in general, because the stuff Rick Riordan has him go through as far as like his dyslexia and his ADHD, a lot of people can relate to. And he just hit gold with Percy, and I just think Percy's the best part of this entire series. So, moving on to Annabeth for a minute. I really do like Annabeth. She is a really good sort of connection point to Percy, and I think she really does work alongside Percy really well. Because the two of them work off each other super well. They got awesome chemistry. Rick Riordan did an awesome job writing their relationship, and they just are hilarious to read because they're constantly just sniping at each other left and right. And it's not like in mean spirit, but it's just kind of funny to read. Because if you know the relationship between their parents, it makes sense why they would have a relationship like this. And I really appreciate her characterization. And I love her just drive to prove herself. Because she's been at camp so long, and this is her first quest. So she's like, I have to prove myself to be a legitimate hero, and this is my one shot. I'm going to do everything I can. So, moving on to Grover, I really do consider him kind of the least developed of the three, but I don't think he necessarily needed to be super fleshed out, because the role he serves, particularly in this book, is just kind of more or less a sidekick. He does have his whole motivation to go find Pan and gain his searcher's license, and that's an important bit of his character, but there's really not much else. But honestly, to me, there really didn't need to be anything more. Because like I said, he's just kind of there along for the ride to help make sure Percy and Annabeth get there safely. And he works for the role Rick Riordan has him doing within this book. So despite how sparingly Grover gets development, I really do like him. He serves the role he needs to serve in the book, and he's a good character. So there's one really kind of small con that really drags this book down a bit. It doesn't completely ruin the book for me, but it drags it down just slightly. And that is this sort of middle of the book. They've already left the camp and are in the middle of their prophecy quest, and they run into a bunch of these monsters, and they do it one after the other after the other. It's just sort of this, they just randomly find monsters in each of their locations. And I get what Riordan was trying to do. It's an action adventure, so it makes sense. If they're gonna stop, they're obviously gonna find something. But I feel like he adds one or two too many of these things. Because there's 5 or 6. I feel like if you cut 1 or even 2, you'd be fine and you wouldn't lose a whole lot. And also, that time that he dedicated with that, he could obviously just throw it to the others for character development. And it's just my sort of general dislike of unneeded side plots, but I get what he was doing. It's just a personal con of mine that he's wasting time doing this stuff. What I'm saying is, he could have cut 1 or 2 of these and saved a bit of time, and I feel like the book wouldn't have suffered a whole lot. And with that time that he cut, taking out the side plots, he could have added to more character development. I still like the book, don't get me wrong. I just feel like he could have cut 1 or 2 of these things to make the book overall better. So, final thought and rankings on the book here. I still absolutely love this book. Despite its slight flaw I just mentioned, it is still really, really worth the read. It is still as good as ever. I love it. The characters are super relatable. The story flows really well. The mythology is used expertly. It's just a great book all around, and highly recommend reading it. So I'm going to give Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief an 8 out of 10. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you can get notified when I drop my next video next week. While you're down there, like I said earlier, if you guys have any book recommendations you want me to do in the future, you can leave those down in the comments as well. If you guys have read this book before, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. You can leave those down in the comments as well. Next week, we will be doing Percy Jackson and the Olympians Book 2, Sea of Monsters. So, till then, I hope you guys have a great day and keep reading.